Smart Studios.
One of the things, okay. This is Kariem Rashid, host of the Let's Help the Black Community Get Themselves Together and Fight This Counter Supremacy called White Supremacy. We must start now trying to understand why we cannot get ahead as a community, as a family. Let me read something starting out. I have a sheet here from Francis Quest Welsing. Again, my name is Kariem Rashid. I'm a imam at one of the masjids, local D.C., Washington, D.C. But we have a term called white supremacy, which we need to understand. They do not want to help us. So we have to learn how to help ourselves. First thing we need to do is stop name-calling one another. And there's a whole list of things we have here, but stop gossiping about one another. Stop squabbling with one another. And before we say squabbling, we should always say a prayer before we do anything. So in light of that, I want to stop the show right now and say a prayer. Oh God, help us all understand why we're here on this planet, and help us to understand why we're here in this country, and help us understand why we are who we are, and we need to get better. And if God wills it, we shall do so. Thank you very much. That is the opening prayer. We probably say that every time we get together. But for right now, I'm looking at a paper from the South Florida Times. Headlines: Black women face a culture of abuse. I was down in Miami at the culture convention for the Muslims, people who are trying to figure out how we can support the community and make the community a better place. Anyway, getting back to how we're going to have to counter racism. We got to do everything ourselves, because nobody is going to come here from the white supremacist group and try to help us. In fact, they're going to say that they want us to continue squabbling, fighting, cursing, being discourteous to one another, stealing from one another, robbing each other, killing each other, throwing trash down where we live, not going to work on time, selling drugs, using drugs, make the black children play basketball all day long and don't go to college, don't go to school, stop the welfare lines, always begging somebody for some money. We need to think positive. We can beat this system if we all learn how to do what? Stop trying to be something that we're not, which we are human. So we have to do our best to be a human. So stop being divided. Stop being allowing the black, brown, red, and yellow peoples to be divided by this concept called white supremacy. Now, I'm 74 years old, been on the planet for that long, thank God, and I've been as a supporter of this country for the 74 years and the people before me. But again, my name is Kariem Abdula Rashid, and I'm an Islamic chaplain. And I work in many areas of the world, but I'm in the boiler room business, and I'm actually an HVAC consultant. And I started in the Air Force in 1970, about 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. But make a long story short, I have worked in many jobs around the world, and I had a job at the Pentagon. I've been to the Masjid Haram in Saudi Arabia. I used to work for the State Department doing their air conditioning work, so I'm familiar with some of the large types of equipment. One thing we want to do is realize that we're using a lot of electricity to make sure that this country is sitting pretty as far as health, wealth, and everybody should get the same thing, health and wealth and a good, clean environment. So, last job I had was at the Howard University in Washington, D.C., and I also worked in their power plant, and I also worked for the Washington Center for Aging Services in Washington, D.C. as an engineer, as an assistant engineer to one of my good friends and partners in the boiler room business. We realized that if the boilers do not heat the water up, you will not be able to take a bath. If the boilers do not heat the water up, you will not be able to go home and get in your nice warm bed and see how the heat is taking care of your whole house. So my goal is to try to get more clean, green energy situations throughout the world. Because if we don't do that, we know we're going to have a lot of pollution, a lot of evolution, and things are going to destroy our planet. And we don't want to destroy our planet because we have to live here. So that means we're going to have to actually learn how to work together. So I want to just show you some papers that we're dealing with in Miami, Florida. This is on the headlines. This is Palm Beach, December the 12th. It says black women face abuse. And these women that's here is some famous women, beautiful women as well. Taraji Henson, we have Oprah Winfrey, and we have another lady named Henson, Winfrey, and Cassie. I'm not familiar with them at all, but Taraji and Penda Henson, Oprah Winfrey, and Cassie are some of the victims of a culture of abuse. And they don't mean that they're getting abuse like physically. They're getting a lot of subtle abuse, like they go on a trip and then they have to do double time to get approved to get into the country or get out the country. So we have a situation here called white supremacy. I was in Miami last week and I mentioned the question about what is the elephant in the room. We're talking about how to help people. So first of all, we got to explain to the Caucasian people that we are tired and we've been tired and we're going to stay tired of them trying to help us in their own way. We need help, but we don't need their help because we're going to have to learn how to do what? Work together. So what is the white elephant? What is the elephant in the room called? The issue for the black people is morals. Without morals, you cannot grow a country, you cannot grow a plant, you cannot grow a food that you can eat. And if you eat the wrong food, as you can see with the GMO type foods, you will be succumbing to an early death. So the key to our life in this country, Muslim, Christian, Jew, pagan, whatever you want to be, is clean up your own self. And you start that by what Jesus said in the Bible in Mark 9:29. These kind of people who talk and foam at the mouth and cuss and scream and holler, we need to get them to start praying and fasting. Now you say, oh, why you want to pray? What are you going to pray about? Well, the best medicine for all the people is a book called the Holy Quran. This book came to the world through our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he suggested that if you want to get to the paradise in this life and the next life, you follow all the previous prophets, good information. Do not listen to some of the prophets who were saying they were a prophet and they weren't a prophet. But if you can follow the logic of Jesus, Moses, Abraham, Noah, these prophets, they came with a message similar and same as the Holy Quran. Prepare yourself for this life, do good, pray to Allah, eat the right food, and take care of your family, and try to have you 1 or 2 or 3 wives if you need to, but don't get crazy like some people, and I'm not going to say nothing else. Main goal is you have to control yourself. The white elephant in the room, getting back to it, is even though the Caucasians are hurting us, we have to learn how to be morally upright, which means we got to be sincere in our desire to please God. And you can call God anything you want as long as you do not harm another human being. So thank God for these type people who came and brought us some information that we can utilize. Now, I have in my here a thing about food, and I'll just give you something that's really understandable. We need to eat better food, and you can do that by limiting your fat, especially saturated fat. Try to eat lean meats if you have to eat meat. Eat fish regularly. Replace all these high-fat foods with some low-fat foods, such as broiled, baked stews of fish or poultry. And please, I know nobody's eating pork, because the pork is not healthy, and this animal is a known carcinogen. Just eating it will give you itself some type of form of cancer. So if you even taste this stuff, it's going to be working on your system to give you cancer. So you should teach your children, do not eat pork or any pork products. And I've also addressed another issue called processed foods. A lot of the processed foods are over-processed with hormones, chemicals that is going to create cancer. And you should always limit your consumption of sugar, because there's nothing like a sugar diabetic person that has been able to get sugar diabetes because they do not know how to limit their diet and cut out the sweets, cut out the sugars. You'll go high fructose corn syrup, sugar, processed foods is unhealthy. So your goal as a human being is to, if you want to stay here now. If you don't want to stay here, eat what you want to eat and leave when you have to leave. But the goal is eat good, live good, pray good, have a good family, and then we can find peace in this world and in the Middle East. I've been writing poetry all my life, and I listen to some of the rappers, and they always talking about the women this or the women that. But now we're going to get down to brass tacks. The problem is not them. The problem is the men. The men going to have to step up and take care of their responsibilities. Now, some men don't have a wife. Some men have one wife. Some men have 2 wives, 3 wives. But they don't call them wives, they call them girlfriends. But in Islam, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he set us a decent example of how to maintain the society and make it all peaceful. He said marry 1, 2, or 3 or 4 women, and you have to take care of them. You don't want them going to work, or you don't want them going out here to fight. You don't want them going out here trying to go to work in the wintertime because you can't go to work unless they absolutely have to. But your goal as a man is to take care of your responsibility, which is the woman. And the woman is a jewel for all men if they understand that we must take care of our womb that bore us. These women brought a lot of people, brought everybody into the world. And if you don't understand that, then you're, like I say, a person who needs to be and taken back and processed again, maybe you can understand. And we don't have to send you to jail, but we will have to send you to some place where you can learn some decency. Now, in addition to food, clothing, I dealt with the food, eating properly. I dealt with the clothing. Wear loose clothes, don't wear tight clothes because we don't want you to stimulate everybody who's thinking about sex. Wear loose clothing if you can. That will help the world because a lot of people have accidents driving down the street looking at people and then they're thinking about it and they have accidents. So the main thing is food, clothing, and shelter. Your shelter can be a house, one room, if that's what you and your wife like, or it could be 50 rooms, whatever you and your family like. But the goal is, Prophet Muhammad said you should get a wife first, but you got to have a house, 2. And then number 3, you got to have some family and friends. And then 4, you got to have a nice riding beast or a car. So you got to have all these different things to be a perfect person in this world. These 4 things are pretty easy to get. All you have to do is go to work as a man. If you're a woman, go to work and then wait for your man to help you get yourself together. But the main goal is peace and prosperity, and it can all be done. Now, you have some people out here who are greedy, and we don't want that. We want to be on a super serious high level about struggle to find peace. Don't struggle to find more food and killing people to get the food. So when you realize that God is on your side, if you say prayers regularly, and I mean you have to say your prayers faithfully. If you're going to be a person who prays, then pray sincerely and then ask God to help you. And if you can do that, then you'll be following some of the ideas of the prophets. And the prophets told us that when you pray, you should meditate. Meditate means for those 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes of prayer, you should be thanking God for everything you have because it could be worse. You could have poor health, no action, no whatever, what do you call it? You could be a man with no action. Now, you can get action if you eat right. You can get yourself family members who will treat you responsibly if you work right. And as my father-in-law, Mr. Calvin Jones, said, the men have to pay dues. You cannot be a man sitting around here talking about, I cannot go to work because my fingernails, or I cannot go to work because I need a haircut, or I cannot go to work because I got bad feet or something like that. We need to get you some better shoes. But the point is, when you get through praying, and you should pray as many times as you can every day, this is what we're dealing with, meditation. Think about what you're doing and pray to God that you can get somewhere. Now, when you grow up, they send you through the rites of passage as a man. And if you cannot do that, then you start thinking like a little child, and then some of the men have to take care of you. Now, if you cannot go to school, go to work, get yourself together, then what happens, you might wind up in hell or jail because it's very easy. Just get a job and go to school at the same time and work and save your money and stop drinking, smoking, fornicating, lying, stealing, cheating. Because all that's going to do is what? Get you into more hellfire. So we want the men to step up. We want the women to step up. But more so the men, because the women have to take care of the children, teach the children how to be a good follower of the father, as long as the father's doing the right thing and he's not off the chain. The women should teach the children how to be a good follower of the father. And when I was young, my father and mother was working together, and they had a lot of struggles, but they kept their family together. And my mother and father was able to stay married for 40-something years and kept me and my 4 sisters and anybody who wanted to come around us in decent shape because we took care of people, we helped people. And like I say, many people helped us, but at the same time, the main goal was keep the family together. Because if you have a broken family, then you're going to have broken children. And if you have too many broken children and too many broken families, then you're going to get results like the ones we have in today, whereas people are not getting married. So the goal of the Muslims, and this is the goal of the Muslims now, I don't know how the Christians feel, but the goal of the Muslims is to satisfy half of your religion. And then the other half is doing good deeds to your spouse. Do as many good deeds to the community and of people. But half your religion is getting married, and the other half is staying married. And if you can do that, God will bless you with some smart children. And I have many smart nephews, sons, daughters. All of them are doing the best they can, but the goal is support the truth. The truth is you are a Muslim. You don't even know you're a Muslim, but when you go to sleep, who wakes you up? When you have a bowel movement, who helps the food digest in your body? If you're not thankful for that, if you like to be constipated, think about it. The aggravation that you're going to go through trying to get that stuff out of you. So your goal is to stay prayed up, as they say in the church. Stay prayed up and stay lubed up with your proper foods, because a little bit of food is better than no food. And if you can do some prayers, a prayer once a day is better than no prayer. So every day you must pray. And you should pray the way Allah told the Prophet Muhammad to pray. And Jesus said the same thing. He said, "Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name." So you need to know all these prayers. And then the Muslims say, with the name of God, most gracious, most compassionate. And then the Jewish people say, and I don't have the books close by, but they say something similar. "O Elohim, please help us to be strong, because if we're strong, then our families are strong. And we have been blessed beyond repair because we're now striving on the straight path." And I'm sorry, I'm looking at my books here. But goal of this talk today is, if you don't get anything else out of this talk, start praying for peace. Start praying for peace. And if you can do like Job, understand that you're going to struggle. You're going to be dealing with people who don't want you to be free. Harriet Tubman said if she could explain to the slaves that they were slaves, she would have got more people free. So this is an attempt by me and some of the Muslims to prepare for getting out of slavery. But before you get out of slavery, you got to be striving to get yourself morally clean. And if you can do that, guess what? You at least slow down the killing in the community. And so God says through his prophets, and I said, here's a guy that gave me a quote. He said, if you work for a man, right, in heaven's name, you work for him. If you go to work, work hard. He's the one paying you wages, will supply you bread and butter. Work for him and speak well of him. This is your boss. Do not talk about your boss behind his back, because he is trying to help you. Now, if you can just do a pinch of loyalty, it's worth a pound of cleverness. If you must be a nasty person, condemn and despair the person, then instead of trying to make the person a bad person, you should just resign your position. And when you are outside, then you go ahead and try to be hurtful to that institution. But as long as you are part of the institution, do not condemn it. And if you do that, you are loosening, as it says here, that Albert Hubbard said, you are loosening the tendrils that are holding you to the institution. And at the first high wind that comes along, you will be uprooted and blown away, and probably will never know the reason why. So if you go to work, people, and I'm going to read it so you can get the gist of it again. If you work for a man, in heaven's name, work for him. If he pays you wages, which supply you bread and butter, work for him. Speak well of him. Stand by him and stand by the institution he represents. If put to a pinch, an ounce of loyalty is worth a pound of cleverness. If you must vilify, condemn, and externally disparage, resign your position, and when you're outside, damn to your heart's content, but as long as you are part of the institution, do not condemn it. If you do that, then you are loosening the tendrils. These are the ropes that are holding, just like tendons, that are holding you to the institution. And at the first high wind that comes along, you will be uprooted and blown away and probably will never know the reason why. So this is the season of Kwanzaa. This is the season of Hanukkah. This is the season preparing for Ramadan. And we have Christmas. And all these people are saying, we should work together. We should always work together. But guess what? Allah says to people who want to work together, please work hard to work together. Do not start killing people just because you can't get along. And somewhere in the Holy Quran, and this is the book of the Muslims, it talks about the Jewish people, and there's some good Jewish people, but there's some bad Jewish people who made Jesus the prophet chase them out of the temples, because these people was in there charging riba. Riba is interest, and you can't build a house on sand. You have to have solid ground. Riba you would never pay off the riba. Riba is interest. And the interest today is at 24, 34, 44, 54, 100%. And so when you loan people money, they never pay it off. And that is the problem. You have people with a lot of anxiety because they say, "Dad, this guy's rich and he loaned me $10 and I got to pay him back $20. So how in the hell, excuse my French, am I supposed to get free?" But you never get free once you sign your note and say, okay, this is till death do us part. And that's going to be probably what it is if you sign a note that's exorbitant. So your goal as a human being is to stay out of riba, stay out of debt, and try to get your life together, because if you don't, you will be working for everybody else except yourself. And so Jesus said to the money changers, can you please leave us alone? I'm tired of you all destroying the community. I know you Jewish people, he's talking about the Zionist Jews, or the Pharisees. He said, they get these Jews out of here because these guys are charging interest for what? They got all the money and they're going to charge high money, big money. And we can't never get out of debt. Jesus said, look here, Pharisees and Sadducees, can you all please leave this country, leave this temple? And they said, yeah, man, we're going. And guess how they went? They went around the corner, changed identities, and now they said, look here, Jesus is God. Now, that's a whole nother topic. I'm not going into it right now because it's a touchy subject, and we don't want to get too carried away. But if you want to see what some of the Christians said when I went to Ethiopia, you can get this book called The Muslim Christian Dialogue, pages 68 to 71, and they will tell you how some of the Christians, and there's a lot of Christian priests converting to Al-Islam because they realized that Paul, the Apostle Paul, who felt that he knew Jesus better than Jesus knew himself, and he convinced these pagans or these Gentiles, these Caucasians, who were rampant with warmongers and all kind of crazy ideas. And no offense to them, they like to fight. Everybody like to fight if you want to fight getting paid like Muhammad Ali, but we don't want to fight just for the hell of it. So anyway, make a long story short, these men said Paul was correct when he said Jesus is the Son of God. Jesus is God. So they got a Trinity. The whole thing of Trinity is a little bit just misleading from my group, the Muslims. And there's 2 billion Muslims on the planet Earth. There's approximately 2 billion Christians on the planet Earth. But if we have any kind of disagreements, it's best to sit down and talk like we did in the Muslim-Christian dialogue. And you can get that book online. And you can look at just what the Christians were saying and just what the Muslims were saying. And you can get a lot of information on how we can solve this issue of who is the chosen people, who are the real chosen people, and if you are the chosen people, you have to act like the chosen people. And Allah said in the Holy Quran, and I'm trying to find it here, there's a lot of people called munafiqeen, or hypocrites. And we don't know who's a hypocrite. We can't say who's a hypocrite unless they speak, they lie. When you make a promise, they don't break they break the promise. Or if you trust them with something, they break the trust. These are some of the techniques of the hypocrites. But nobody should be going around and talking about who's a hypocrite, who's not a hypocrite, because you yourself might be a hypocrite because you have not submitted yourself to Allah. And Allah does not like false worship. That's all I'm saying. If you think you can become a better person by false worship, that's on you. But Allah says, please, world, no false worship. Now, in conclusion, I don't know how much time I have, but in conclusion, I would like to say that this life is a test, and the African American people have been blessed to be in this test, and I think they're going to come out with flying colors, because God said the chosen people will eventually win through. Those who pray, those who act right, those who teach the truth and patience and constancy. And I could say the Arabic for you, but the key is try to figure out how you can be a truthful person, how you can be a constant, consistent person. We got a lot of brothers who say one thing and can't find them the next way, so try to be consistent. And then lastly, you got to get you a family, because the man's job, according to Adam and according to Eve, not Adam and Steve, Adam and Eve, he said man takes care of the woman. And each woman is turning a woman at 16, and each man is turning a man at 21. So it gives a man a little bit more time to reflect and get himself together. So when he gets him a wife, not a Steve wife, but he gets him a real wife, then he can take care of her, because you can't build a house on sand. There's no way in God's earth that the Bible is wrong saying you can't build a house on quicksand. So that's my analogy of trying to go into all kind of different degrees and ideas, and that's where we have prayer. That's where we have fasting. And that's what Jesus said in so many of the Bibles. And there's at least about 150 Bibles. My wife printed out this sheet. It's the King James, ASV, the HACSB, CJ Bible, the EHV Bible, ESVUK. All these Bibles are saying one thing that's true. But one of these Bibles is a little bit more succinct. It says, if you want to get rid of these kind of evil people, evil doers, people foaming at the mouth, acting a fool, you're going to have to enlighten them to help them to start praying and fasting. Praying and fasting. Praying and fasting. Now, where I say it 3 times because I want you to sink in, you have to take it upon yourself. As I say in my poetry book, Meditation, Listen to Your Soul, by me, Kariem Abdula Rashid, Bukra, you got to take the onus of yourself. You got to own up to your own bad deeds one day, and you should try to own up to them today. But if you don't, at least try to pray yourself into a better life, and try to be fasting at the same time. Try to be, bad language. Try to pray and fast. Try to do the right thing. And we're getting close to the time, and may God bless you. But the one thing you should remember, you have to do it yourself. When you stand in front of the Creator every morning or every night or whenever you want to pray, ask God to help you. Say, oh God, please help me. I need some help. I'm in dire need of anything you can give me. And then I could say, maybe you will be able to help me, help you, help the world. And like I say, when I went over to Manila, Philippines last December 14th with Imam Talib Sharif, Washington, D.C., I was blessed to go with him to the Global Peace Convention. And he says that these people over here, Koreans, Chinese, Mongolians, Africans of every persuasion, there was over 2,000 people that I seen, and I met quite a few of them, at this convention, and all they want is to get world peace, and they say one family under God, the human family, not the devil families who want to kill people. If you start killing people, you're not really a participant in the family. You have to be a lover of the family, not a sexual predator of the family, a lover of humanity. And maybe our president can help us do that because, like I say, I believe he loves his family. And inshallah, Biden loves his family. And inshallah, Kamala Harris loves her family. But we want to do right by all the families. And the goal is this year, 2025, let's help the families tighten up. Let's help the families. If they need to get more than one family going, they just try to help as many families as we can, because the goal is get these folks off of welfare, get these folks that's homeless with some homes, and we can build tiny houses everywhere and just stop worrying about who's going to pay for it. You got all these rich people out here. They're doing like LeBron James. Some of them doing like LeBron James. They helping as many people as they can, and they still have plenty of money left. But the rich people have to stop squawking about 10 cents and let the world grow up and stop. Don't charge them no interest for a year and maybe 10 years, and then let them build themselves up to be somewhat rich, but at least be able to take care of themselves. And the last point is happy Father's Day to all the men. And in my poetry book, I say happy Father's Day, but don't forget that your woman, the WOMAN, your woman is the one that's going to give you love, so you can hopefully do what? Calm down and stop fighting and cussing and fussing. And remember, the season of Ramadan is coming in February. So you have a whole month to get yourself together preparing for Ramadan. I'm asking everybody in the whole world to learn how to fast, because I believe if we fast, then we'll be able to have a peaceful world, and probably by the summer. And then by the summer, the whole world will be in good shape. We also have different programs called Savior's Day. And this is the 22nd of February. There's plenty of programs where you can attend and learn more of the life-giving teachings of Allah's Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And remember, you are what you eat. That is on a physical level and a spiritual level. So you can stop watching filth, stop eating filth, and the worst filth you can eat is swine. Now, if you're hungry and you don't have no food and you're poor and you can't get to the store, then you have to do something, stay alive. But do not consume swine that much, because if you do, swine, and I'm a poet too, the swine will do what? Mess up your mind. And like the songs I used to sing when I was young, take a stroll through your mind, you'd be surprised of the trash you might find. and the swine, if it's in there, it's going to blow up your mind. So any questions, comments, statements? I might send the link out. One more thing. There's a well in the Bible called Zamzam. And this well is still in Saudi Arabia. And this well has been supplying water to the Saudis' families for years, for over 2,000, 3,000 years. And God told the Muslims, even though Ishmael was there, he told the Muslims that we're going to make sure this water never runs out. And this is in the Bible. So all the Christians don't know that Ishmael was the one who set up the wellhead, his mother Hagar. His mother Hagar was an Ethiopian or Egyptian servant. She was a queen at one time, but she got captured. You know how they do. You know how they do it. So she got captured, and so now she's got to work for Sarah and Abraham. But Abraham said, look here, Hagar, I got a surprise for you. And Sarah said, what happened? She said, well, I got a little baby. And so Ishmael was the sacrificial son. And Isaac said, wait a minute. But Allah said, no, you have to wait a minute. The truth is the light, and the light has to shine. The well of Zamzam, all the water that runs all over the desert over there, came out of the ground by a miracle because Hagar, a religious African queen or Egyptian queen, prayed to God. Her and her son prayed, oh God, help us. We in dire need of some water, food, something. And so that's where the city of Saudi Arabia is springing from. And we ask everybody on the planet Earth sometime this year, if you can, like some of my folks said they're going on Umrah, but you can go over there and see all the people over there. I got a lady over there named Jenna Ibrahim. You know, she's over there praying to Allah. She sends me videos. She sends us video of the whole beautiful city. And if you can get over there as a Muslim, not as a Christian, because the Christians can only work over there, but if you go as a Muslim because you say that there's only one God and Muhammad is the messenger, and I would say it in Arabic, but I want you to think about when a person says, La ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah, that could be the same thing as speaking in tongues. I often tell some of my Christian preachers, and they don't want to say it, but they say, well, I'm speaking in tongues because God told me to speak in tongues. Well, I'm speaking in Arabic, and I know what I'm saying in Arabic. And there is no God but Allah. That's La ilaha illallah. And then they say Muhammad, you know, Muhammad. Muhammad is the Rasul. He's the messenger and prophet of Allah. This man came to save the world, and then he needed some help. So he said, look here, y'all. We're going to send these African Americans over around the world, put them in slavery, put them in all kind of hell. Tough situation, but Allah said we're going to bless these people to come out of slavery and be the shining light in the whole world, because we've been beaten up pretty badly. And we know we need some kind of way to express ourselves to the world in a nice way. So Allah said he's going to bless us with faith and sacrifice. And we don't mean no ill harm to any person on the planet Earth. The goal of the Muslims is to forgive and move on. Thank you very much. Have a great day. This is Kariem A. Rashid signing off. Amen.